Thank you very much, Esther, for being here in the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. It's been, well, we've been actually talking a little bit before the podcast. I'm really happy actually to have you here. I was really looking forward to this time to enlighten, as I was telling you, other teachers' path, teachers who are actually on the way. As teachers, we always learn, and I think you are a great one here. Another great episode with you with a wonderful topic. But first, I would like you to introduce yourself. I would like you to share with all the audience who you are, what you do, and all what you've done throughout your career.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. For me, it's an honor to be here. Really feel very, very highly honored for your invitation. So thank you for that, first of all. And then, I'll try to cut a long story short because I've been teaching for many years now. I've been in the educational field since, I started being, let's say, trained to become a teacher in 1987. So I've been in the educational field for a long time, both as a teacher and as a teacher trainer. And I would mainly say that I'm a passionate educator, and my intention is mainly this of trying to help other educators um, do their job successfully. So if I can be of any help, I'd be more than really, really happy.
Definitely. Well, we were actually talking a lot before having the episode. I remember we were actually talking about what is exactly the topic that we can discuss today. I remember some time ago I showed you like 5 topics, and I was like, those topics were super good because that's your field. And I saw it and I was like, okay, which one? What can we do here? And then suddenly we were talking, what about if we just do this and that one? And we just mixed up the 5 topics that I had into
Mm-hmm.
one. So the topic today, it's quite long. The brain, the heart, and the system,
Mm-hmm.
emotional safety, neuroeducation, and neurodiversity in a world that was
Exactly.
never designed for every learner.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's the one. Could you please tell us
yeah,
a little
Mike.
bit about it?
Sure. There are no two learners who, no matter how similar they may look as learners, no two learners learn in exactly the same way, right? So classes have been heterogeneous and have always been heterogeneous. The point is that now we are aware, we are taught that, this is the way things are. So knowing that we cannot pretend that, let's say, we can still keep on teaching the same way we did in the past, right? So um, we are all neurodiverse, right? In some way. It's true that there's a distinction in the field of science that clarifies this. Some people are neurotypical, some are neurodiverse. But to be honest, right, I will follow one of the teachings of one of my favorite teachers back in Argentina, right, in this field of neurosciences. And she said this, it's true, some people are neurotypical, some people are neurodiverse, but back in the end, we're all neurodiverse in the sense that we all learn a bit differently, yeah, in some ways. So some people are mostly um, we do not talk anymore about learning styles because that somehow confused people, thinking that some people are visual, some are auditory. No, we are a blend, right? We do learn. It's true that most humans, all of us, most of us are wired for mostly visual input, but what is true too is that we learn throughout all, let's say, that happens to us throughout every sense. So we cannot say, okay, I am a visual learner. No, we learn throughout all the senses. So knowing that, one of the sayings I usually share in my presentations is the more senses we invite to the party of teaching and learning, the more people that will learn, right? So that's
Definitely.
the idea, right? We are all neurodiverse. We all need variety of input, and the more variety of input, the more possibilities that more students will learn.
Exactly. You know, that actually takes me to a question right now because definitely, and I 100% agree with you because living in a classroom, knowing our classes, knowing the reality of the classroom, seeing our students, that some students, yeah, definitely they learn. Some of them are more visual and all that like that, but all of them actually work all the senses to try to learn something. But why is it that we're still forcing millions of students into identical learning pathways? Why is that still happening?
Well, actually, I think we are reproducing teaching methodologies which worked in the past and still somehow in the end work in
Hmm.
the present. Now, in that way, we know that many people are just left out of the system when they could learn if they were assisted or they got the proper scaffolding. So we are mainly, I would say, to just answer the question, say kind of in a short and sweet way, is we are reproducing something that used to work and in a way allows us to teach lots of people in the same setting, just with one simple approach. Yeah, trying to see it's like playing bowling. I see if I can reach the most. I'll try just I'll just hit to the middle and then luck to those on the sides, right? So that's the way still things are done in many ways, in many settings. And the idea is no, we cannot play that way. We shouldn't be playing
Exactly.
that way any longer because the ones on the side are still waiting for us to do something for them, right? So this happens with the learners who are striving to learn and learners who probably are more talented, naturally talented, and sometimes they also left on the sides, right? Because
True.
this is the way I teach. I am one, I cannot be teaching different, say, I cannot just um, help every learner with every kind of need. And of course, we do need to do that. Is it more demanding? It is. Is it impossible? It's not.
Not.
Yet we have to make a decision.
Hmm,
No?
that's
Mm.
true. But so then, is this system truly designed for learning then? Because it sounds like it's not. Because what it's actually telling us is they're pushing like a narrative, you know? We gotta keep
Hmm.
doing this, just like you're saying, you know, something that worked in the past. They're still actually pushing it until now. It's like, let's keep working this way. Let's
Hmm.
keep doing Bloom, you know. Let's
Mhm.
keep the Bloom taxonomy here. Let's just address in this way. But until now, but what you're saying is like a little bit like, is this system truly designed for learning or just for control, compliance, or standardization or something like it? Because it sounds like it sometimes.
In fact, you mentioned Bloom, and I say, well, Bloom, if we did Bloom, we would be doing things quite correctly, right? The point is that sometimes we stay at the very bottom. What Bloom did not even regard as skill, it was remembering. I need people to remember because without remembering, I cannot do much, no? The point is that instead of going up, right, into the other layers that would demand people to do more critical thinking, we are staying there at the very bottom. So people are reproducing, repeating, not very much connecting or analyzing or comparing, contrasting. So I would say that Bloom's taxonomy, yeah, would be of great help. And I would say many teachers do not. And I always think people are really well intended. It may be because they lack time or they need to do more continuous professional development. But if they saw the depth, yeah,
Mhm.
of that taxonomy and really went for it up to the very apex, right? When we have to create, yeah, we would be doing a lot of good to students. The point is that if I just stay at the very bottom by making students repeat and reproduce, we are, yeah, as you said before, very well said before, we are reproducing, I mean, patterns of a system which nowadays is demanding something different, right?
True,
And the
true.
system is different. We are different. I'm an advocate for content, because I'm not saying that, no, okay, let's make things lighter. No, it's not making things lighter. What has to be learned has to be learned. Now, the ways, the methodologies, the approaches, the time some students need is different from the time other students need. Sometimes it's just a question of extra time. Yeah. But you also mentioned the word standardization.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's true. We want to follow teachings, say that neurosciences have brought us or brought up to us. And at the same time, we need our students to sit exams which require certain repetitive patterns. Or so, wow, there's where we teachers or no, we might find that we are a bit at a loss. What shall I do? What is the correct thing? Well, I tell you, I'm a Cambridge examiner. I do train students for Cambridge exams, and yet I do apply this that I preach. Yeah, because I see that all my students, even though they may be, let's say, B2 level,
Mhm.
I can very quickly spot differences in what they need. So, do I have to still teach them the B2 level, say, vocabulary? Of course I do. Do I have to teach them about different parts of the exam? Of course I do. Do
Mhm.
I have to treat them as if they were all alike? I don't. I don't. Hmm? So,
That's a very good approach there. Very good perspective. I like it. You know, now that you're mentioning all this, it actually brings me a little bit of the previous episodes that I actually had this other teacher, great teacher, Jose Torres. We were talking actually about the ethics of education. And this actually brings a little bit because he's actually in the system. And now you're mentioning a little bit of the FCE, the CEFR, I'm sorry, and all the Cambridge examination, but everything is about a score. Everything is
mhm.
about a grade. So moving a little bit there, do grades measure intelligence or do they measure obedience and conformity? To your perspective. Now that you
Mhm.
mentioned that, because I like that one because in this podcast, we got a lot of learners as well. A lot of people who are actually listening to this podcast just to practice their listening skills as well. And this point is actually part of it. They would like to know about it as well.
Hmm. Okay, we do need scores, no? Because we humans need a watch to see the time. We need measurements. We do need them, right? Now, the point is what we do, yeah, so that students who really want to get a certain score can achieve that ideal, right? That objective. So sometimes we should be very honest and tell them we need longer time because sometimes some students are faster learners and they can very easily grasp something and, let's say,
True.
conform, as you said, right, to the
Mm,
rules. But others need some other pathways to be followed until they can conform to the rule. So I'm not against standardized exams up to an extent. But if you ask me, I mean, uh, do all students need to prove their validity as learners through a standardized test? Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. Even if, as a mom myself, I've never pushed my children to sit standardized exams as a proof of their knowledge, right? So it depends of why, it depends on why you want to get that score kind of being measured. But let's try to soften things a bit, especially those parents who see their children need extra time, need extra paths to achieve certain ideas, objectives, or whatever. Let's go more for that. Should we get rid of standardized tests? No, let's leave them there. Do we all need to prove our validity, intelligence through those? Oh, definitely not. So let's be logical. Let's be um, let's say, sensible, right? Standardized tests measure some scores. They give you a score. That's okay. Doesn't, of course, they do not measure intelligence. I mean, apart from it, there we should get into some other topic, which is not ours probably today, which is what is intelligence, right?
exactly.
So they do measure use of English. They do measure, okay, that doesn't measure your validity as a learner, your real intelligence, right? Because otherwise, um, um, what was the name of the, well, I really know this and it's just slipped my mind. That is that, woof, it slips my mind. But sometimes we are, even in our jobs, it will come, I hope, later. Um, we are promoted in our jobs because of our high, let's say, performance, cognitively speaking, and because of our, let's say, high IQ. And we may be dismissed or, let's say, removed from a position because of our low EQ, emotional quotient. So, intelligence is far more than marks and scores, which are not bad, I insist.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So that actually, you just gave me the point of following to the following, going to the following part, because uh, in grades actually they also hit actually person's feelings at a certain point, and there comes the emotional safety. And there
Mhm.
comes how I'm feeling. Because definitely, you're saying it, a score doesn't define how smart you are or something like it. But we do really need standardized exams or a score to see where we are. Fair enough. But can real learning happen in a brain that feels unsafe, anxious, or judged?
Well, no. Can it happen? Well, in many cases, we learn. Out of fear, we do learn too.
Mhm.
But what happens then? What happens with that? Because as there's a saying that goes, it says, we've learned, luckily, even in spite of some of our teachers, right? So, um, whenever we feel unsafe, let's now refer to an educational setting, we can never, never, ever learn in the same way as if we were relaxed and, let's say, that's why this reminds me of something that was one of the first things I learned when I started studying neurosciences. That was what should be. I remember one of my teachers asked us, what should be the main objective, the first objective of any good educator in a class? And so, well, answers vary when planning, knowing the subject. Yeah, all that is definitely necessary. But the most important thing is creating a resonant environment. And what does Goldman means by resonant? Inviting and threatening, where I can make mistakes and still be accepted, where I can ask a question which might sound a bit silly, and yet my identity won't be at stake. My value won't be at stake. I may maybe a slow learner, yet I am valid simply because I'm there. Yes, simply because I exist. So when a student feels, and this is, I would say, totally independent even from age, because even you may be at university and feel that at times you are not being, let's say, politely treated by a teacher. And would you feel the same way? Has it ever happened to you, Mike, as an adult, even feeling that,
Of
wow, you
course.
were. So sometimes we are blocked because I mean it's not the threat of a cheetah, an animal, or let's say nobody's going to attack us physically.
Of
Yes,
course.
but yet we behave as our ancestors did, right in the savannah. Something makes me be at stake, my honor be at stake, my value be at stake. I can never ever concentrate as well as if I felt relaxed in a resonant environment. So please, let's go for that first. And this is not minimizing, let's say, challenges. No, no.
Hmm.
Students very well. Students even this has been studied and researched well enough. As from a very early age, students know if they're, let's put it this way, fast learners or slow learners.
Got it.
So there's no need for us to emphasize that. We can perceive that as from a very early age. And then they can also perceive if they are being accepted as they are, or somehow not fully accepted. So that happens as from a very early age, and it happens throughout life, yeah, in an educational setting and outside. Now let's focus on this, right? So main thing, prepare your subject, be a great, knowledgeable person of the field you are teaching, be organized, all that is plus, plus, plus. But please create a welcoming environment where learning will definitely take place much
Exactly.
more.
Exactly. And I couldn't agree more with this one because here's something, and again, this is something very important that all the teachers must know. But not all the teachers are well trained in this part. Not all the teachers can
Mhm.
recognize this type of a let's say like a trauma or traumatic experiences from students, like in
Mhm.
inside the classroom being judged or being they don't feel safe. So they have this, but not all the teachers can recognize that. Not all of them.
Mhm.
So either they are not trained enough, or maybe what is happening is that maybe they're unintentionally reinforcing that unsafety feeling.
Mhm. I would say that, well, teaching is a profession, no? So, if we are trained to be teachers, we learn about developmental psychology. We learn about, nowadays, I would say still neurosciences are not being taken so seriously within the teacher training colleges as subjects or one subject that should be taught. So what we would say is that anyway, many teachers, right, still get to know some things about the importance of, I mean, or some teachings that come from the field of neurosciences. But I would say that in many cases, come back to your question, what teachers do is reproduce some patterns that took place in their own settings as learners. So you have to be taught how to teach. And teaching is much more than delivering and filling vessels. It has to do with lots of things that have to come with that. But well, I can talk about Argentina, a country where I was trained as a teacher. I can talk a little bit about Spain, the place where I live now. I see differences. I'm not saying one thing is good, the other one is bad, but what I definitely can see and I would like to share now is that in Argentina we do teach a lot as let's say students. By the time we graduate as teachers, wow, we've done lots of teaching and we've been watched lots of hours. So I would say, we may have learned lots of different strategies and so variety in approaches and so on and so forth. So I would say that when teachers reproduce a pattern, it's because probably, and I insist on the well-intendedness, but probably that's all they know.
Yes. Yeah, that
Probably that's all they know.
definitely. And it is actually a factor right now in educational system. It's not only the system itself, but also as teachers. If we don't actually work a little bit in ourselves and we don't learn how to recognize this kind of
Mhm.
patterns in the classroom, we're actually failing. And we're not failing not only to ourselves, but also to our students who are actually the most important part in the class.
Mhm.
And this is something that actually calls my attention because right now the system it's kind of a getting packed with so many teachers right now, teachers who are not actually teachers.
Hmm.
They are called teacher because they believe just standing up in front of a class that makes me a teacher. And that
Hmm.
actually takes us to a big problem because those kids are not learning because that person was not trained properly to recognize what a classroom is, the differences in a classroom, how to address them and all that. So this is
Hmm.
something that it gets me because I've seen it and I've experienced it a lot.
Hmm.
And that's why we have places like the one where you're working now I see that you're very caring also about the families and how to train,
Mhm.
teacher trainer and family training as well, something like that,
Mhm.
which is super good. This is something that we really need, reality,
Mhm.
not just a nice picture there and a good slogan. We need
Mm.
something that can actually help teachers, teacher trainers, all of us
Mhm.
who are in the system who actually work and have it inside. We are teachers.
Mhm.
We want something good. So
Yeah.
it's very good what you're telling me. That's why I totally agree with you. And that's one of the problems that we have now.
Yeah, apart from it, one very relevant thing is that we teachers, once we graduate, well, we have the degree. Let's suppose those who do have a degree, a teaching degree, but that's the very, very beginning. We are just budding teachers. We need to really keep on receiving continuous professional development, right? Now, I was a teacher trainer back in Argentina between 2009 and 2022 when I moved to Spain. And yeah, we did a lot of training. We trained over 2,000 teachers every year in the city of Buenos Aires. And then we did some class watching, which was not intended to
And the class
watch,
observations, right?
observe. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
But mainly because then we wanted to see if what teachers learned in the training sessions was then put in practice. Yeah.
Nice.
Because the brain is very lazy in some senses, you know. Once I know how to do something, it would be very demanding, yes, energetically speaking, to start doing the same thing but differently, I mean, following a different path. So that's why it's difficult, not impossible, of course, to break a habit. Because once I get a pathway and I kind of strengthen that pathway, wow, that's so easy for me. It saves energy. Let's go that way. So we teachers sometimes, I will include myself, we attend training session, may find wow, lots of ideas, lots of wow moments, but then once back into the classroom, I keep on on repeating patterns because it's easier, because I have the material already prepared, because it worked the previous years. So continuous professional development, if it's not with some kind of follow-up, may end up
Meaningful.
in being just a, yeah, it doesn't become that meaningful in the sense that then we may not put things into practice because, well, come on, I've already got the material. So it's continuous professional development plus some follow-up that urges me to really implement things that I've learned. Because otherwise, what I see is that, especially if you work in the state-run schools or in the state system, well, you are forced to comply with a certain amount of training hours. But then nobody supervises much what happens inside the classroom. If that is replicated, if what you've learned is replicated then in the classroom. And again, we are all, I believe, well intended. The point is
Yeah.
that, yeah, we need to sometimes push ourselves forward to say, okay, yes, this will be more demanding. I will have to prepare new stuff. I will have to sit here and, well, but for that, and to avoid also burnout and overload of work, well, see if we can share with colleagues, if we can, let's say, as Caroline Tomlinson, when she speaks about differentiated instruction, she says, hey, come on, start small, maybe one class only, maybe one unit, but start.
Yes.
Changes come if we gradually try to implement them, right? So sometimes when we've been reproducing a teaching methodology for years and we think we have to change everything, that is too overwhelming. No brain will tolerate that easily.
Mhm.
But if you see you can start making changes, your students have all the right to get those
Exactly.
changes being implemented. Yeah. If what you're doing is far from what is nowadays known or proved not totally correct in the teaching field, right? So start small. One
Definitely.
class, one group. You have six classes. Start with one, not with a whole book. Start with one unit. Start with one of the, say, parts of the unit. Sometimes units have two, three, four, whatever,
Exactly.
chapters, episodes, or whatever. But start small, yeah.